Welcome to my channel, Finnish with Heidi. Today we are discussing intensity adverbs. Ihan, tosi, kovin vai aika? How to talk about intensity without messing up. All of these are very common intensity adverbs in the Finnish language and they are commonly used in everyday conversation. However, many students tend to use some of these incorrectly, mainly because of lack of knowledge, I believe, because this is something that is actually more complex than you would think, and often this is not really taught to students, or at least not in detail. So today we are going to tackle this with some practical examples, and hopefully this helps you to understand more profoundly how to use all of these. Here you can see on the left side sentences in Finnish, and they are always exactly the same except the intensity adverb. And then on the right side, you can see the translation into English. Let's go them through. Saunassa on tosi kivaa. It's really nice in the sauna. And you can see that I've put the most positive one up first. Here we have the intensity adverb tosi. This is quite simple. It simply always means really or very, and it's intensifying the adjective that comes after it. Saunassa on kivaa. It's nice in the sauna. This is a simple sentence without any intensity adverb. It's a positive sentence because we have a positive adjective here, but it doesn't have any intensifying word. Saunassa on aika kivaa. It's quite nice in the sauna. This is actually still quite positive, since we can often translate aika as quite, but it's not as positive as just saying saunassa on kivaa. Aika is never the same as tosi. Tosi is stronger than aika. Alright, so tosi means very or really, and aika is not as nice as tosi. Alright? Saunassa on ihan kivaa. It's quite nice in the sauna, or it's nice enough in the sauna. Now, although you can see that we have the same smileys for aika and kiva, actually they are not exactly the same. I would say that ihan is less nice than aika. Because if I say saunassa on ihan kivaa, it means kind of it's nice enough, but it's not especially nice. So it's not bad, but not really that great either. Just okay. Saunassa ei ole kovin kivaa. It's not so nice in the sauna. When we have negative sentences, we normally use the word kovin. We wouldn't use tosi or aika or ihan in this case, but kovin instead. Ihan can express something being okay or good enough, but not especially nice, as I said earlier. So aika is more neutral than ihan in that sense. More examples. Suomalaiset pannukakut ovat tosi herkullisia. Finnish pancakes are really delicious. And this is a very positive sentence. We have an intensifier word, tosi, indicating very or really. Suomalaiset pannukakut ovat herkullisia. Finnish pancakes are delicious. Suomalaiset pannukakut ovat aika herkullisia. Finnish pancakes are quite delicious. And now notice again that although aika herkullisia is still pretty positive, it's not as positive as tosi, or it's not as positive as the sentence without the word aika, right? So aika herkullisia is less delicious than just herkullisia. Suomalaiset pannukakut ovat ihan herkullisia. Finnish pancakes are quite delicious, but they're quite okay, but not as special. Alright, so notice that here clearly ihan herkullisia is less positive than aika herkullisia. And this is what many students get wrong. They often think that ihan always intensifies positive words, when in reality it's the opposite in most cases. Ihan herkullisia is just okay, but not very delicious, like tosi. So if you want to intensify a positive adjective, it's better to use tosi instead. And then the last one. Suomalaiset pannukakut eivät ole kovin herkullisia. This is a negative sentence, so we use eivät as the negative verb here, and then as the intensifier, adverb, we use kovin. To my native ear, Ihan can often sound slightly more negative than Aika, kind of just being good enough not to be bad. This is a very important distinction to keep in mind. Do not use Ihan too much when you want to give compliments, because then actually what it sounds like, it's often not even sounding like a compliment. Kokkaaminen on tosi hauskaa. Cooking is a lot of fun. Kokkaaminen on hauskaa. Cooking is fun. Kokkaaminen on aika hauskaa. Cooking is quite fun. Kokkaaminen on ihan hauskaa. Cooking is okay. Kokkaaminen ei ole kovin hauskaa. Cooking is not so much fun. Kokata is a spoken language verb meaning to cook, and kokkaaminen is the noun form of the verb. And here we need to use the noun because kokkaaminen is the subject of all of these different sentences. But when it comes to these different adverbs, the idea is exactly the same as in our previous examples. Pay a special attention to the word ihan. So, ihan hauskaa is not actually very fun, it's just okay. But now comes the tricky part. Because when we use negative adjectives instead of positive ones, then some of these meanings get reversed. Alright, so now the most positive one comes first as well. And it would be, tämä takatalvi ei ole kovin hirveä. This wintry weather in spring is not so terrible. So now, to actually undermine the meaning of hirveä, which is a very emotional negative adjective, we need to use a negative sentence and then kovin. Ei ole kovin hirveä is not so terrible. Tämä takatalvi on aika hirveä. This wintry weather in spring is quite terrible. Aika hirveä means quite terrible, but not the same as very terrible, alright? So it's less terrible than if you just use the word hirveä. Tämä takatalvi on hirveä. This wintry weather in spring is terrible. Tämä takatalvi on tosi hirveä. This wintry weather in spring is really terrible. Tosi hirveä is really terrible or very terrible. So this is now clearly intensifying the meaning of hirveä. However, look at the last one, which is the trickiest. Tämä takatalvi on ihan hirveä. This wintry weather in spring is completely terrible or extremely terrible. So what happens here is that when we add ihan together with a negative adjective, it does intensify the meaning. But why, if we just learned that it does the opposite? The tricky thing is that ihan has different meanings depending on the adjective that it's combined with. If we have ihan plus a negative adjective, then ihan intensifies the meaning of that negative adjective. However, if we have ihan plus a positive adjective, it makes the positive adjective less positive. And this is what most students often get wrong, and because they think that it always intensifies the meaning. It doesn't necessarily intensify it, and ihan doesn't always mean something positive. And what is takatalvi? Let's talk about this a little bit. Takatalvi is a Finnish concept for the kind of winter-like weather that comes in spring, and it's a very common phenomenon, unfortunately, in Finland. Normally nobody likes this, but it's a very common thing that when it looks like spring already, then the winter weather comes back. We might have snow again and very cold weather. Literally, this is back winter. And well, here you can see how I translated it. Wintry weather in spring, for instance, because in English, I don't think there's a precise translation for this kind of expression. Now, as a summary, tosi on sana, jota käytetään vahvistamaan positiivista adjektiivia. Tosi can be translated as very or really. It's used for strengthening a positive adjective. And actually also it can be used for strengthening a negative adjective as well. Tosi hirveä, very terrible. Aika huonontaa positiivisia adjektiiveja ja pehmentää negatiivisia adjektiiveja. Quite makes positive adjectives worse and softens negative adjectives. Ihan vähentää positiivisten adjektiivien intensiteettiä ja lisää negatiivisten, voimakkaan tunnepitoisten adjektiivien intensiteettiä. Ihan is the trickiest one. It could be translated, for example, as quite, really, completely, and it reduces the intensity of positive adjectives and increases the intensity of strongly emotional negative adjectives. Kovin on sana, jota käytetään enimmäkseen negatiivisissa lauseissa. And it could be translated, for example, as not so. And it's mainly used in negative sentences. Lisää esimerkkejä. More examples. Tämä ei ole kovin vaikeaa. This is not very difficult. So this is quite a positive thing, right? It's not so difficult. Tämä on aika vaikeaa. This is quite difficult. Tämä on vaikeaa. This is difficult. Tämä on tosi vaikeaa. This is really difficult. So notice that tosi can intensify both positive and negative adjectives. Tämä on ihan vaikeaa. This is simply an incorrect sentence. We cannot say ihan vaikeaa. Instead, we could say aika vaikeaa, quite difficult, or tosi vaikeaa, really difficult. Or tämä on ihan helppoa. This is really easy. But this is funny now, right? Ihan helppoa is a positive expression, right? Well, this means still that it's really easy. Why on earth now we use ihan helppoa as a very intensifying expression? Well, it sometimes really depends on the word a bit. So if we say ihan herkullista, it's not so intensifying. But if we say ihan helppoa, then it is more intensifying. And although vaikea is a negative adjective, it's not as strongly emotionally loaded as, for instance, kamala. Therefore, the collocation ihan vaikea is incorrect. So we can say ihan kamala, completely terrible, but we cannot say ihan vaikeaa. That would be incorrect. So sometimes there are also some collocations you have to learn, and some collocations that work and some that don't. But in general, ihan would have a more negative meaning when it's combined together with a positive adjective. Ihan helppoa is kind of like an exception here. Televisio ei ole kovin tärkeä. Television is not very important. Televisio on aika tärkeä. Television is quite important. Televisio on tärkeä. Television is important. Televisio on tosi tärkeä. Television is very important. Televisio on ihan tärkeä. This again is an incorrect sentence. Think of ihan as a word that is in positive sentences combined with the positive adjective expresses something that is okay. But the importance of something cannot be okay. The thing is either important or not. And I can also say televisio on ihan turha. Television is totally useless. And because we have a negative adjective turha, we can say ihan turha, totally or completely useless, to intensify the word turha even more. En ole kovin vihainen. I'm not very angry. So this is quite positive that I'm not so angry, right? Olen aika vihainen. I'm quite angry. Aika makes the word less strong. Olen tosi vihainen. I'm really angry. Tosi intensifies the word vihainen. Olen ihan vihainen. This is something we normally never say. It's an incorrect sentence. Simply, this is not a right collocation in Finnish. Collocation meaning that these words simply normally don't appear together. They are not used together. Olen ihan rauhallinen. I'm very calm. I'm completely calm. So now again, here you can see that rauhallinen could be considered as something positive, right? And we have ihan that intensifies it. Strange, huh? Other common collocations, meaning fixed expressions, that Finns often use in spoken language. Mulle kuuluu ihan hyvää. I'm pretty good. Or I'm doing pretty well. And here actually ihan hyvää means like, okay, I'm doing good. So it's not the same as if we say mulle kuuluu tosi hyvää. Because if I want to say I'm doing really well, then I say mulle kuuluu tosi hyvää. Not ihan hyvää. Because remember, ihan just means kind of like okay or doing well in general, but not especially well. Se on ihan omissa maailmoissaan. He or she is completely lost in his or in her thoughts. Or he is completely in his world. Or she is completely in her own world. Oot sä ihan tosissas? Are you really serious? So here, Ihan kind of intensifies as well. Ihan tosissas, really serious. Nightwish on Ihan paras bändi. Nightwish is the best band ever. Ihan paras is a very positive expression, the very best or the best ever. So when it comes to Ihan, I would want to remind you that there's not a straightforward rule on how to use it, and I would rather recommend that you just learn all of these examples that I gave you in this lesson by heart and then apply that knowledge also for other adjectives. And in general, if you want to give positive feedback or if you want to compliment food, for example, do not use Ihan. Use Tosi instead. But you can use Ihan in these fixed expressions in the way that I have shown you in this lesson. I hope that now you have a better understanding on how to use all of these adverbs. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments. You can also write your own example sentences in the comments to practice, and I can check them and give you some feedback. Keep calm and keep on learning Finnish. See you!